Today is Thursday, April 29th. Welcome back to Cheddar's News Wrap. I'm JD Durkin in Washington, D.C.
And I'm Hannah Doba in New York City.
That's right. President Joe Biden's address to members of Congress last night hit on seemingly every issue imaginable. The president touted his White House's work on the pandemic, but some in Congress are raising alarms about COVID-related scams. But what does a pandemic scam actually look like, and what are members of Congress doing to better inform the American people? Joining us now for much more on this really important topic is Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican of the great state of Tennessee. Senator, thank you for taking the time as always. Your general reaction here to the president's speech, first and foremost, do you think the commander-in-chief sent the right message to Congress?
Oh, no, I think he did exactly what the left wing of the Democratic Party wanted him to do last night. He rolled out a list of very progressive leftist failed policies, by the way, that ideas that have been around for decades. And that is pretty much their wish list. Of course, this spending, when you look at everything they've spent since January 6th, the spending totals up to about $6 trillion. So it's a pretty hefty price tag.
Of course, your colleague from South Carolina, Senator Tim Scott, the Republican, gave the official response. The issue of police reform has been so important to Senator Scott, and there is a little bit of daylight, I'd argue, with House Democrats. How do you see being the path forward in good faith on this issue? Is it to sort of marry the two versions of police reform that are being talked about on Capitol Hill? And what was your reaction to what your colleague from South Carolina had to say?
I thought Tim Scott did a really remarkable job last night. He said more in 15 minutes and more meaningfully than the president did in an hour. He was very positive. He talked about opportunity. He talked about the importance of faith in his life, of redemption to our country, the role that redemption and reconciliation play as we work every day for our nation to be a more perfect union.
You led a really interesting hearing on Capitol Hill earlier this week, Senator Blackburn, a bipartisan one at that, all about COVID-19 scams. And I don't know if enough Americans are really paying attention to it, but I want to read off the official name for the hearing was Curbing COVID Cons, Warning Consumers About Pandemic Frauds, Scams, and Swindles. Talk more about that. What is not known enough to the American people about this growing concern that you have?
This is something that came to life as you were beginning to see the advertising online of PPE and sanitizers and things to protect yourself, how to ward against COVID. And there was a host of different scams and products that were fraudulent that began to appear online. So we are working with the Federal Trade Commission, the Department of Justice, and working to make certain that we address the concerns of consumers. Now, what we do know is, yes, when companies are found to be marketing a product that is fraudulent or a service that is fraudulent, there are actions, penalties, and enforcements that can take place. In the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, has done a good, respectable job of that. One of our frustrations is many times some of these online stores may begin to question a company or their product, but they continue to sell it anyway. Some of the web services or some of the platforms that host these stores and sell this ad space, they have a responsibility also. And they should be turning these companies in and turn these online stores in to the FTC for investigation. Many times that does not happen. So as we move forward on this issue and looking at the scams, we'll continue to see how we can make certain that the American consumer is protected in the virtual marketplace, just as they are in the physical marketplace.
Identity theft is also a unique concern about this. Have you seen enough willingness from the FTC to tackle this issue? Do you think there's good faith from the FTC?
One of the things we would like to do is push forward a virtual you protection agenda. There are 4 components in this. One is online privacy, which my Browser Act has been around for several years, and it gives the consumer, the online consumer, the ability to control their virtual you, which is you and your presence online. It also would deal with data security, breach notification, so that individuals would know if there had been a breach and if their identity, their virtual presence online, that virtual you, had been infringed or had been stolen. The third is to look at Section 230 reforms. And what we found is sometimes these platforms, when it is found out they have allowed products or stores that are selling fraudulent products on their line, they will claim Section 230 protections. We need some reforms there. And then the fourth, where you have bipartisan concern, is dealing with the issue of antitrust.
Earlier today, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said that the future of the Republican Party, Senator Blackburn, is towards the future, not towards the past. If former President Donald Trump does decide to run again for office in 2024, will you support him?
We are always there to support the Republican nominee. I think President Donald Trump did a terrific job as President of the United States. And if he is going to be a candidate in 2024, I would look forward to supporting him as the nominee for our party.
Finally, President Trump did indicate the party needs what he calls good leadership and said Mitch McConnell should be changed from that position. Do you agree? Is it time for Mitch McConnell no longer to hold the leadership position?
You know, we elect leaders at the beginning of every Congress. And we have done that for this Congress, and that discussion would be premature. We elect a leader again at the beginning of the next Congress.
Finally, have you spoken with former President Trump?
I have, yes. He seems to be doing well. He's playing golf, and we're just really grateful for the leadership. You know, one of the things I think that President Biden could have done last night that would have gone a long way was to recognize President Trump and his administration and the scientists and the researchers that brought about Operation Warp Speed, that got a vaccine to market in a period of 9 months. Usually vaccines take years to get to market. And to have recognized the fact that getting the NIH and the FDA to work in conjunction with private companies, get these vaccines approved, and then shots into arms 9 months into this pandemic, that was an incredible feat. And we should all celebrate the greatness of this nation that made that happen.
Absolutely, and Operation Warp Speed is deserving of a lot of appreciation for doing what many people thought could not be done far quicker than many expected. Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican of the Volunteer State, always love my visits there to Tennessee. Thanks a lot for taking the time. Really good to have you here as always.